another invitation for interview was accepted by our dear friend Katka, who is originally from Czech Republic, so that's why we are so close to her. And we would like to ask her our set of questions to learn more about the journey of Czech startup in Silicon Valley. So my first question, Katka, what is your role in the company?
I'm actually the co-founder and the CEO.
Okay. Could you tell us a bit more about the industry your startup is active in, and what is the phase of your startup?
Okay, we're in travel business, and we started about a year ago. We launched, but as I learned here now in Silicon Valley, I should probably more say that we're still in a beta version, where we launched to test to see if it works, and the good part of it was that actually customers paid for it. But in terms of San Francisco, I'd say we're in the beta version after our first seed round.
Okay, so we know your industry, we know where you're from, and now it's time for the Hollywood pitch or elevator pitch, whatever we want to call it. So can you describe us what are you doing,
Okay.
your company is doing?
Yes, great. I have not actually practiced my elevators pitch yet, but this is a good first try.
Okay.
So Travelove are deep travel experiences without zero planning hassle. If you're a busy, intelligent person, curious about the world, you probably don't want to go to Paris and just take yet another selfie photo in front of the Eiffel Tower, just like all the other tourists do. You probably really want to get to learn Paris, and that's where we come in. Why are we the right partner for you to actually explore Paris? Is because we have actual trip designers living in Paris. They're the ones that create the experiences that you can choose from. Then how it works for you is our own unique model of putting these experiences together. I call it a puzzle. Every experience is like one piece of the puzzle. So you might have a different taste than I do, but we still can work with different pieces of puzzle. You put together things you like, and we make a puzzle out of it that is specifically for you. And it would probably look very different from what I would get. But in the end, again, it's for busy, intelligent, curious people, who we both probably are, and we will get to experience Paris in a totally different way, in a local way, and with local people. That's it.
Wow, I think that was very nice elevator pitch, and even without practicing, good job, I have to say.
Actually, I think I could actually practice tonight. I saw on Slack that you can pitch to 11 Chinese investors tonight.
Wow.
They have free spots.
So good luck with that. Good luck with that.
Or we could do both of us.
Oh yeah,
anyway.
maybe. So my next question, how long have you been to Silicon Valley, and how long do you plan to stay?
I came 2 months ago, and I only unfortunately have 2 more weeks to go during this first visit of mine.
So why did you decide to come here? What was the impulse for you?
Well, actually, it was a coincidence, but at the same time, it was perfect. We won a contest with Czech Investor, with the Czech governmental office, and this allowed us to come for 3 months to explore or to raise money. We are not in the stage for the American market to be raising money, so I was exploring, and it came at a good time. As I said, like we're, let's say, ending our beta version. And are able to sell to customers. So it was a perfect time to see how this would fit the American market.
So far, what are the biggest benefits for you, for your business, just being here?
Well, it's like the Hollywood, as you said. So if I wanted to be an actor, I'd go to Hollywood. If I wanted to be a startupist, I'd come here. There were tons, of course. First of all, I learned what a startup is. As silly as it might sound, because I would always say, like, oh, I've been doing startups for 3 years now. But the reality is, I think you actually learn what it means when you come here. So that was a great benefit. Then, of course, I never learned anything about the travel business in America before. We really were trying to put together the product, and we were trying to sell it and test it with Czech customers. So when I got here, I didn't even know how the market big was or how Americans would normally travel. So I was kind of like really at the beginning. So that helped that I could learn about the industry, meet people from the industry and meet other travel startups. Honestly, there are not very many in Czech, if any. So that was definitely very helpful.
So you get the networking phase, you get the like market acknowledgement phase, and if you think you are staying longer, let's say another 3 months or half a year, what do you think the other benefits will be? Where you can get, what more you can get from Silicon Valley if you stay longer?
Yeah. Well, just like what we can get when you get to Hollywood, you can be in better movies and having better roles, I guess, and learn from the other actors. So that would definitely stay. Like for us, or for me personally, I now have a whole set of goals where we need on my milestones where we need to get. So what we're actually doing right now and what I created here, and I use for the research part, I use help here, and marketing part as well, because marketing here is still, I'd say, much more advanced than it is back home. So we made this plan where we want to assess different markets, find the right personas, evaluate the efficiency of these markets, and by the end of January we're going to choose one market and one focus. Now, if that ends up being America, I'll definitely have to come back anyway, as you're asking about the 3 months, and actually really start an entity here, build a company from scratch, and most probably also do the fundraising. If another market, let's say Great Britain or Germany, turns out to be our first focus that we should do, we would probably not come back to San Francisco. But as I said, it's the Hollywood for all the stars should be here.
So we know the benefits, and are there any pitfalls you experience here?
I was thinking about that, and honestly, no. I would say like I think one pitfall, and it's just because I'm Czech and I'm a woman, and so my ego is probably not as high as it should be. But
interesting. Looking forward to the answer.
I think I might say that after half a year, if I was fundraising for let's say half a year, I'd say like a pitfall was if we didn't get any money, that would really suck. Because that makes things difficult if you don't get fundraised. But at the moment, I'm not even dealing with that. I just have it somewhere in my head, like, okay, if that happens, that kind of will suck.
So my next question, if there was something disappointing, like real disappointment for you, you expected something which didn't come. Is it again fundraising or something else?
No, actually no disappointment. I understand it differently. A disappointment is when something doesn't meet your expectations. I think it exceeded my expectations in terms of understanding how big and modern Hollywood, the startup Hollywood is. So that was actually all an awesome ride.
So I suppose you learn a lot based on what you are saying as well. So now, like, hypothetical situation, you have all the know-how you have right now, but you've never been to Silicon Valley, and you will be going there in 1 month. What would you do differently in terms of preparations and the actual stay in Silicon Valley? How to be more efficient, better prepared?
That's an interesting question. I don't think I could, by the way, just ever like get this know-how in advance. I think you just kind of have to be here and live those 2 months or whatever time to get to that point. But even if that happened, I would really try to get more confident in hiring people or finding people to work with me here. At the beginning, that was tough. I did not know the travel industry, so talking to anybody about it was very difficult for me personally. I also wasn't certain about the next steps of our startup, how to get focused, how to find that focus. So now that is done, I feel like I finally should be confident about what we do, and in terms of getting people to work with us, to really ask for the best. So HR would be now my biggest challenge in the US, and I would definitely seek help to do that, and to do that really well. As a foreigner, it's definitely more difficult.
Once people arrive to San Francisco, they usually complain about accommodation.
I had you guys.
I know your story, but like, what are your tips how to look for accommodation in San Francisco or around?
I have to admit, like I'm like a backpacker style person, not just in travel. So Actually, I just got lucky. I think the best way to do it is ask friends who have friends. Everybody knows at least some Americans, and when you know an American, there's a high chance that they will know somebody in San Francisco, and then that somebody might know somebody again. So I would definitely do that rather than Airbnb. If I had the chance to kind of like get through friends to friends, that's how I got to an awesome apartment. I really loved it. The people were so nice. But now I'm like doing the backpacking style. So honestly, I live in a room with other 6 people.
Oh, okay.
And it's on the other hand, it's a community home. I'm probably the oldest person there. I'm definitely the only person that has kids there. They're all like crazy young people working for charities and having big dreams and discussing being vegans for hours because it will save the planet. So it's an awesome experience actually. So I think that if you're open to any accommodation style, you will end up meeting people and learning something new, either living at your house or with this community people or whoever else.
So if you decide that US will be your like strategic market, your first market, what do you think? How many people will you bring here? And how will you make it? Like in which waves or phases? If you have some idea about it.
Yeah, this is really interesting, and it's interesting for me seeing how you guys do it at Corinth. I wasn't even thinking about bringing anybody here. I feel like since we're doing B2C, even we might use B2C channels, but still our customer is the consumer. I always thought for marketing and sales, which would be the strategic roles on the US market, I would need American people. So my idea, that's why I was also talking about HR, that I thought HR would be the next big thing to find the right few people to work with us here. And concerning IT product and operations, I definitely have a plan on keeping it back at home where the costs are so much lower. So I wasn't even thinking, honestly, about bringing anybody over. I wanted to build a new team here. And then I'd get into the challenge of like how to connect these people, how to make them friends, how to make it all work because we're a travel company, of course, they will go and see Prague and then Prague people go and see San Francisco or something like that.
So that was my next question. Like how do you deal or potentially will you deal with these like culture differences among location in the Czech Republic and San Francisco? And even like the time difference is kind of inconvenient. Since when one working day starts in one country, it finishes in the other country. So how would you deal with that, or how are you dealing with that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually see it now when we're launching a new website, and with operations and product, it works pretty well because from the very beginning we had a process on how to do it, like how often we talk to each other, although it's my morning, their night or evening, it still was manageable. But with the IT team, they were just stuck in their room, like by their computers and doing their stuff. We let them be, but now they finally launched and they sent us their test site. And now they're so far away. It's not like I can go and see and say like, hey, really good job, thank you. Well, let's look at what we can do better. It seems to be so far away for to start something new when you're so far apart. But on the other hand, the product is the same. The operations process should be the same for any customer anywhere in the world. So I think at least, or the biggest part is that the goal is the same. Like we need to have happy travelers who travel the same way no matter where they're from. So that kind of like keeps the people together. And then of course, like for example, the marketing role, I just think that people in Czech have to believe that the American marketer has a better idea on how to do it on the American market than, for example, a Czech product person does. So the trust, where they trust each other's opinions or decisions on how to make things. But that's about it. I do not have any experience with it. I have no idea.
One more practical question. People are sometimes dealing with like legal issues in terms of visa and like being able to work legally here. How does this work for you? And if you decide to come back, how would you solve the situation?
Yeah. See, I'm like still in this naive, very early stage, so I haven't even thought about it.
Okay.
But I just thought it wasn't such a big deal if you travel back and forth, which I would have to do anyway. Like with I guess because my mindset is about having American people marketing and selling here would be Americans. Me going back and forth, yes, but with going back and forth, I kind of can do it, I guess. Now I'm not sure if I'm being illegal here. Going back
Okay.
and forth, managing the teams
Yeah,
on
yeah,
both
yeah.
sides of the world.
Okay.
So
So, like, to conclude, last two questions. The first one is, do you have any tips, tricks in general for whatever founder, entrepreneur who's coming to Silicon Valley?
yeah, well, be ready to have, like, especially if the founder is from places like Czech Republic or let's say maybe Central Europe. And I apologize to anybody who might feel harm, but people are much more open and friendly and willing to help here. So really take advantage of that in good terms. You have to help too. Today I just connected a person that I know with an HR person to find her a job. But at the same time, expect and accept that people are going to be willing to do the same for you. Always be very polite. Don't criticize. Just like be a happy person. Don't use that Czech style of like seeing the bad stuff of things right away, because then they don't understand you and they will be less willing to help you then. So just take advantage of how Americans are, who they are, and especially here in San Francisco, I think everybody is always really willing to help startups. And I have a great example actually. So my own parents, went to Istanbul the other day, and we have a trip to Istanbul. Well, they did not buy my trip. Now I went to see my host family in Wyoming, just a family that I lived with for a year when I was in high school. And their first question was like, so can we go to Israel, Paris, London with you guys? We really want to help you. We really want to do this. So I think that says it all. Just take advantage of that. Be open, to all these opportunities. Then if I like a personal one, definitely go and practice yoga here. There are tons of awesome yoga studios, and it's a big thing. And again, even like in this little thing, I talked to my colleague who's in London, because we're also thinking about the British market, so he's going to do the same thing in Britain. And we were like, he was like, he actually tested one of our experiences where you go into a yoga class within that experience. And he was like, I really liked that class, so I started going to yoga. And he travels back and forth between Czech and England. And he was like, so now I was back in Czech and I took yoga there too. And gee, I have to say, it really sucks. So really, like in these big cities, there's so many people who understand it. And and that's what the whole experience here shows, that the world is much further than you would have thought if you just stayed back home.
So for me today, one of the biggest learning was like that I should probably try out yoga here in San Francisco. But what is your key learning from, let's say, last week?
Last week, there are 14,000 startups here. That really surprised me, that number. But only 30% of them are funded. That goes back to that pitfall you asked about, having it somewhere in my mind. And I learned about this one awesome German startup for HR applications and stuff. It's called On Apply, and if you apply till end of year, you can have the service forever for free. So I already did that.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, there's always something waiting for you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I think those
too.
were very valuable insights, and we're grateful for your time and your help. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you, guys.